Hey, this lesson we're going to be looking at selector specificity, and that means that we're looking at the order that the elements take content in. So if you do select various style values on a number of elements, and some of them might be overlapping. So if we take the hyperlink and we add a background color to it, the list item, the unordered list, the nav, the header, which type of styling is it going to get? So let's make those selections. So for the anchor tag, we're going to set a background color of blue to it. So that means for all of the anchors, they just went blue. Now also looking at the styling, let's apply a background to the list items and do a background. So for all the list items, let's select a background color and set it to be yellow, and we'll refresh. So that means that the list items got a background color of yellow, but the main ones still got a background color of blue. So that means that the order, the closer we make the selection of the element tag to the element that we're selecting, that's the one that's going to get precedence over the other ones. So they remain blue even though their parent is yellow. And if we apply to the unordered list as well and set a background color to this, it's only going to set it to this little part of the content because we already have that order of specificity that the element, the anchor tag, already has a background color. So it's not overwriting it. And even though we're presenting it afterwards, it's still not overwriting it. Let's comment out the tags. So the anchor and for the list item. And now when we refresh it, the background is all pink. So if there are more conflicting rules that are applying to the same element, this is when the rules are important. It's important to understand those rules. So the universal selector, is a universal selector which selects all the elements. So that's the asterisk. And that has the least specificity. So if I set it to pink, if we do have other values that are applied to them, then it's going to get applied to those elements. And let's go back into the elements and select the test1 section. So I'm going to update that to be pink, do a refresh. So now this is getting the pink background, but the elements inside are getting the red color being added to it. So if I select style and if I update and add an inline style color of a background of blue, what do you think is going to happen to that element? It's going to transform it blue because the specificity of it is overriding the property value from the style sheet. I'm going to get rid of the red background and do a quick refresh. So we're still overriding because we've got an inline style value that's being applied directly to the element as an attribute. You can also specify important, and this will bring it to the top of the hierarchy. And what important does is this actually makes the property value important, and it overwrites and brings more specificity within the hierarchy to the element that has important attached to it. So with important, we were able to override the inline style value. Let's try a few more examples. And going into section 2, I'm going to give it an ID. And I'll call it test2 as well for the ID. So let's make a selection of test2. And we'll update the background color, setting it to be red. So that's our red element. And now if we take the ID value, it's going to be more specific than the class. So using the hash test2, and let's set the background color to be, we'll set it to be yellow so I can copy and paste from up here. So what color do you think that element is going to be? And if you said yellow, you're correct because that's where we're applying the hierarchy of that element. And then the last one is going to be the tag value. So if we select it by the tag, that's the least specific. So that's why commonly the way that we write styling is we use classes to make the selection. We don't typically use the element tags because they're less specific than the classes. But if you are selecting and using classes and you do have element tags, then the classes are going to overwrite the element tags. And also, IDs aren't used very often, but if you do use IDs, then beware of the fact that the ID is going to overwrite what we set within the class of that same element. And then lastly, the inline styles are going to be the ones that overwrite everything. But again, typically we're not adding in inline styles. And there are a number of specificity calculators that are online in order to help calculate the specificity of your styling attributes. So if you do want to check it out at the specificity.keygen.st, there's a calculator that will help calculate the specificity of your CSS selection.